Welcome to Inside Rangers Football. I'm your host, Brant Freeman. With Smithson Valley head coach Larry Hill. The Rangers had their season come to an end this past Friday with a loss to Austin Westlake 51-31 in the second round of the playoffs. And coach, certainly a tough loss. Any loss this time of year is a tough one to take. But how much were you impressed by the way your team battled this past week?
Well, it didn't surprise me that they battled. But it was a great atmosphere for football. Sunny day, nice day, afternoon game, crowded stadium, historic stadium, and two good football teams getting after each other. It was wild and back and forth there for a good while, and then looked like they were going to pull away. Then we battled back again, and then they finally were able to pull away at the end. We lost to a good football team, one that was certainly deserving of the win, but proud of how our kids performed.
Yeah, Westlake coming into the game 11-0, one of the top-ranked teams in the state, a team that many feel could win the state championship this season. But your team never appeared to be intimidated by the Chaparrals. This past Friday, you jumped out to a 17-7 lead, in fact, in the first quarter. Do you feel as if you took the fight to Westlake?
Well, I think we certainly did in the early on, and I think both teams really took the fight to each other throughout the whole game. As most games of that caliber go, came down to a few crucial turning points that we can easily, in hindsight, go back and pinpoint. But, we've been in those kind of games before, not just in previous years, but even this year. Playing the likes of Hendrickson and Steele and Clemens and Judson, that caliber of athlete, that caliber of play, it was not a foreign element to us. And so our kids certainly were not intimidated at all. We just we made our share of plays, didn't make enough of them.
You mentioned turning points. How big was the sequence late in the second quarter, early third, when Westlake took a 3-point deficit and turned it into a 10-point lead?
Well, that was probably the turning point. It was a turnover earlier in the game, a questionable call that could have perhaps went either way. That was probably one turning point. And then the sequence you mentioned, they scored. We missed a turn scoring. They scored again. So it appeared as though we were out of it, but as usual, our kids battled back, and we gave ourselves a chance to win there in the fourth quarter. Couldn't quite get the stop on fourth down, which would have given us the ball with the opportunity to go down and score or take the lead. Your
offense got out to a great start this past Friday, but just 7 points after halftime. Did you see Westlake make some adjustments defensively?
Not really. They would probably say they didn't adjust much, they just did it better. Or we would probably say we didn't adjust much, we just didn't quite make the plays on third down or get the explosive plays that we did earlier or even later in the fourth quarter. And when two good teams play, the margin for error is pretty small, and not much separates a difference-making play from an ordinary play. And we had a few ordinary plays there when we didn't need them.
There were, though, a lot of big plays for both teams this past Friday in San Antonio. Highlighting a few for yourself, I want to start with a pair made by Mason Pierce. Caught a big 49-yard touchdown opening play of the second quarter, and also defensively broke up a pass in the end zone.
Yeah, Mason's a big playmaker, and he's proven that throughout all 12 of our games this year. We've given him a lot to do. Play cornerback, return kicks, of course, play wide receiver, run the ball. So it's not surprising in a big game that big plays by him would show up.
That job description sounds familiar. Trevon Merrick-Woodard is asked to do the same things, and in fact, he also will run the ball from time to time and ran it in from 70 yards out in the first quarter this past Friday. What do you recall about that play?
Well, it was a little bit of a wrinkle. We hadn't shown that kind of play from that set with him actually lining up in the backfield, so we gave him one more hat to put on. And it's not surprising that he went the distance, although that play was blocked very, very well on that right side over there with a Dorzell Hunter, Ronald Copeney, and then Nick Aiken got the final block to spring him, and Trayvon did the rest.
Trayvon defensively not given a chance to make a lot of big plays because nobody would throw the ball against him. So you look at the playmakers for you defensively this season. One player that stands out to me, Jacob Zuber at linebacker, and he made some plays again this past Friday.
Yeah, Jacob's a big-time player as well. Two-sport athlete, real good track athlete as well as playing outside linebacker. Got himself bigger, stronger this year, used his speed, tackles all over the field, of course recovered the fumble as you mentioned, and provided leadership for our defense. Not surprising he played as well as he did, but real proud that he did.
Well, that again, a look back at the Rangers' final game of the season in the second round of the playoffs this past Friday against Austin Westlake. We'll step aside, and when we come back, a look back at the season as a whole and look ahead to 2018 as well. Back with more Inside Rangers Football in just a moment.
We just got the GVTC Connect Home with Sky Bell. Wow, you can see who's at your front door. Who is that?
Hello, Mr. Mueller. It's Marty from GVTC.
That's Mason Pierce, senior wide receiver and defensive back for the Rangers.
No, just Marty. Making sure everything's working. Video, doorbell, remote arming and disarming of your alarm. And you're getting text messages when windows or doors are opened.
Marty, watch this. R-A-N-G-E-R-S, Rangers, Rangers!
The best! I mean, the best security on the planet.
And welcome back to the studios of Inside Rangers Football for the final time here in 2017 as we wrap up the season. The Rangers close out the year with a record of 10-2, and again, they were district champions this season as well, first district title in 4 years. Coach, looking back at this season, what were some of the highlights for you?
Well, you mentioned one of them, to win this district championship. I mean, all district championships are special. We've done it a number of times through the years, but with so many highly regarded teams stacked in the same league, and to be able to come through that and shake off the one loss that we had and then win the remaining games down the stretch, and to win that district championship, that's probably the highlight. You know, I think some other things, you know, beating a Hendrickson team right at the end of the game, who's still, of course, playing, still going themselves. I think their losses are to us and Lake Travis, so, you know, they've had quite a year as well. To win it like we did to start off the year, I thought was a springboard to our future success. Steele's been a little bit of a thorn in our side since we went in the league with them 3 years ago. To get the big win to open district over there, and then, of course, to win the district championship out at Judson in overtime. So, you know, just a lot of highlights. You know, we've been through the ringer, and to play another highly regarded team Saturday, I don't think anybody would scoff at our 10-2 record, particularly who those 12 games were against. A
lot of fourth quarter games as well as you went through it, and you look at the schedule that you had this season. Pflugerville, Hendrickson, Steele, Judson, playing Clemens in the postseason, taking on at Austin Westlake in the second round. Was this one of the tougher schedules in recent memory?
Well, I think it may be the toughest we've ever done. There's no doubt. We've taken teams all the way to the finals, others to the semifinals, quarterfinals. This team fell just short of that. But none of those have had to take a road littered with those kind of obstacles. And you know, this team stepped up to the plate every game. You know, the Clemens loss was by 6, and we had a chance to win it. The Westlake loss was narrow. We didn't make a play or two right there in the fourth quarter. So. Even when the 2 times that we fell short, you saw highly competitive games, and our players battled to the end.
Earlier in the show, we highlighted the play of some of your seniors from this past Friday in the game against Austin Westlake. Those not the only seniors on this year's team. Just how special was this year's entire class?
Well, there were 40 seniors that played their final game in a Ranger uniform last Friday, and real proud of those guys. Some of them, as you mentioned, are marquee players whose names are highlighted a lot, get a lot of headlines. Others have different roles, you know, give us a look in practice, wear a lot of hats, pinch hit for us here or there, maybe have multiple positions. A lot of our players have changed positions at the behest of their coaching staff, and willingly did so to help us get where we needed to go. And, you know, I don't know how many of them are going to make money playing football one day. I don't, maybe, perhaps none. But all of them are going to go on and be highly successful at whatever they do, because they've learned to work. They've learned to work together, learn to get along, learn to put others first, the team's objectives ahead of their own, and real proud of their efforts. And we don't get where we ended up without their leadership. The nature, though, of high school football, the show must go on. As tough as it is to say goodbye to those 40, you again are moving forward to 2018. Looking at the returners you have from this year's team and the guys coming up from the JV ranks, maybe in some cases the freshman ranks, what do you have in store coming in 2018? Well, you know, you mentioned the district championship. We won the district championship at the JV level, the freshman level, the 8th grade level, and the 7th grade level. Not bad. So we did about as good as you can do on championships. You know, we're about 6 for 6 there. So we do have some players coming. We do have some tradition coming. Obviously, you know, we've got some guys back. You know, anytime your quarterback is back, you know, that's a huge advantage. And we'll have a returner there, as well as some other good quarterbacks coming through our system. 3 of our top 4 linebackers are back. You know, we've got 1 of our defensive tackles back, got 2 of our offensive linemen back. You know, so we've got some things back. Our kicker will be back. So, you know, at the same time, you mentioned the schedule, who we have played, who we will play. Still not going to be easy. the fact that we've won and have won for a number of years, we're always a targeted team by our opponents, somebody whose game is circled on their schedule that they'll be ready to get after. So the challenges are there, but we're excited about who comes back, who's going to be added into them, and we're excited about taking on those challenges.
You mentioned the schedule. We don't know what the entire schedule will look like in 2018 because your 2-year window ended this season. And of course, district realignment is coming up in January as well. What's the timeline for finding out what your schedule will look like next year?
Well, you know, we've tentatively agreed on a handful of non-district games. We still have a few gaps that we've got to fill. That's not entirely complete yet. And part of the inability to complete that is we don't know what league we're going to be in. Are we going to be in with these same guys, just a handful of them, and fill in with all newbies, or something in between that? It's hard to know. We know we'll be with Canyon because we're tied together in Comal ISD. Other than that, we know very little. But geographically, where we're situated, there's nowhere to go that it won't be tough. We're surrounded, you know, most of the powerhouse teams in Region 4 are in about a 20 to 25 mile radius of Smithson Valley High School. And even though there's a number of ways they can align their districts, we're going to be in with some bad dudes. And so we know it's going to be tough, but we're just not sure who that's going to be yet.
Well, Coach, congratulations on a successful 2017 season, and thank you all year long for joining us here in the show and giving us a chance to talk Ranger football.
Well, I appreciate it, and I thank you, Brant, for helping Ranger football along.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this season's worth of Inside Rangers football. Thanks again to head coach Larry Hill. I'm Brant Freeman. Thanks for watching all year long, and we'll see you again in 2018.